Avast, yon scalawags! This be a review on the Captain Jack Sparrow. In the year of 2011, Jakks Specifics put out 2 lines of figures tying into the Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides film. One, about 6 inches, not a lot of articulation, but very detailed and kind of like statues. The other, smaller, more articulate figures with a kind of silly gimmick. Now, for the large wave, they actually had a Build-A-Figure, which was kind of weird. But the smaller ones instead had this action gimmick where they'd include a ring or some other item which shines light on the character, exposing some strange tattoos. They actually had 2 waves for this. And the sort of interesting thing, because half the attraction is just the tattoo, they would release some characters which were essentially the same, sometimes with just really minor tweaks to like the jacket or something, but they'd have entirely different tattoos. Like the other Captain Jack would have, or Jack Sparrow would have a sort of flame outfit, I believe. I can't remember. But I mean, it was a sort of really neat concept, but the figures themselves, kind of always struck me as being lackluster, so I personally waited to pick this guy up, or anything up from the line, until it hit pretty deep clearance, $2.38 to be exact. Was I justified? Well, hold on a second and we'll see. First off, I will say that I do like the packaging, and I feel that the figure really presents well, mint on card. Not so much on its own, though. It does come with this little instruction thing explaining the accessories, including instructions on how to switch the batteries and use the gimmick, although, to be honest, who's going to go through the trouble of switching batteries on something that's cheap? Usually people just kind of toss them out as soon as they're done, or at least they keep them and just don't bother switching the batteries. As for accessories, the figure comes with a top hat, because, can't have a captain without his hat, which I put on completely the wrong way. There we go. The ring for the gimmick. You press in one of the skulls on the side, it shines off light. Of course, it wasn't the skull I was trying to push in. The detail of the skulls themselves is kind of neat, although it doesn't have a whole lot of, sharpness to the image. Then you clearly have a little LED light at the top. Kind of tacky. He also has 2 pistols, both painted straight up brown, which, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It would have been better off at least done silver, because when the character is holding the weapons, you can't see the grips, but you can still see the upper part, but hey, I guess no bigs. And we do get a painted saber, or cutlass, or whatever this sword is. As for the figure itself, sort of a definitely disappointing figure. First off, it does scale a bit smaller. It's more of a 3.5-inch scale rather than a 3 3/4-inch scale, though arguably kind of would work if you're displaying against other lines, just considering that, no, actually it doesn't. Detail-wise, I think these are kind of so-so. You can clearly tell that they have just a additional plastic, sort of rubbery plastic costume tossed over the main body mold, which sticks out, looks a little bit awkward, but at the same time there is a decent amount of detailing, including the stitches, the billows, and the cloak. And I mean, look at this. I think it's supposed to be the holster, but it's got all these cool decorative nicks and scratches, which is nice. Unfortunately, while they have a really flat tone for the jacket and everything, you have a kind of glossy look for the hair, which is kind of funky, and then the same cheaper plastic look for the face. Though I will say that it's a decent looking rendition of Johnny Depp. The bigger problem is, of course, the articulation, or what little there is, although these figures do have a bit more than the 6-inch ones do. I wasn't aware of it, but these apparently are almost all hinged joints, even the shoulders. I mean, how often do you see hinged shoulders? I mean, it's sort of staggering. So you'll only get rotation on that. Single joint elbows, rotation at wrist, hinged hips, somewhat impeded by the jacket and stuff. Single joint knee. The ankles clearly have nothing except for decent sculpting. Then there's a waist joint, although you can't see it because of the clothing. And of course the head can move, only rotates. All in all, just kind of a cheap figure. They don't really seem to put a ton of effort in it, and one of the big reasons why I didn't get into it, besides the fact that, don't so much care about these, is that the original retail price was $8, which put it on par with stuff like Marvel Universe at the time. Which, I mean, if you look at the two, yeah, it's not even close to being a comparison, just because it just doesn't have as much articulation. You really don't have much paint. I mean, these are all just sort of molded plastic for the most part. Very little paint actually used. I mean, the sculpting is half decent. If you do decide between the smaller ones and larger ones, probably would want to go with 4-inch wires, just because they do have some points of articulation. And as a general issue of scale, will kind of fit into displays nicer, because, they're smaller, everything looks huge as a result. And I mean, it's not like the amount of detail in these is horrible or anything. I mean, you can even see the compass, shrunken head, the belts and everything sculpted in here, pockets on the side. So, I mean, it's okay, just more than it was priced higher than the figure really should have been. But this is a look at Captain Jack Sparrow, or yeah, it's called Captain Jack Sparrow from Wave 1. Oh wait, Series 2. Not Series 1, my mistake. But yeah, until next time, folks.